Hello and welcome to episode 56 of the Tomato Timer. And I'm so excited to have an incredibly interesting guest, which we're going to unpack some really interesting questions with. Um, Dinara is originally from Russia and she has lived in 6 countries in the last 4 years. That's a lot. She's a student of Minerva University, where she's studying designing societies and brand management. And while she's been studying, she's also been creating inspirational content about self development, global living, manifesting, and figuring life out as a 20 something on her YouTube and Instagram. Dinar, it's so good to have you. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastically. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited to talk with you today.
Likewise. So, we have heard bits and pieces about Minerva over the years, and it sounds really, really cool. So, we'd love for you to share a little bit about what that university is like and what your experiences have been like.
Sure. For anyone who doesn't know what Minerva University is, it's a program that's very, very innovative. It was founded in San Francisco in 2014. And so I'm in the third graduating class of Minerva. It's pretty new and it's also
Amazing.
radically different. So we have a very different system of education. It's based on the science of learning. We have no lectures, no tests, no exams, and it's very, very engaging, very active. And I think one of the most unique things about Minerva is that throughout your education, you sort of like move to a new country every semester. And that's the way I've been able to live in so many amazing cities around the world and immerse myself in cultures. So I'm just really, really grateful for this opportunity that I had when I was like 18 and I started it. Is there anything specific you want to know about Minerva?
Well, no exams, no tests. How does that all work?
We have a lot of written assignments. So I
Okay.
think at first when I was like applying to Minerva, I was like, ooh, new system of education. I don't like lectures. This is perfect for me because I was a transfer student.
Mhm.
I went to like a top school in Moscow and I really didn't like it. It wasn't um yeah, so I thought about this experience and I was like, am I just going to spend another 4 years just like sitting in these lecture halls with like 200 other students not learning much?
Mhm.
So Minerva was just really exciting for me in that way. But I don't think I could understand how much workload that would be because we have to do all the homework before each class. It's a
Mhm.
lot of reading. And then we have like five, I don't know how many on average, depending on your course. You have to write a lot of essays throughout your semester and they are graded. And also, when you talk in class, you have to talk in class and that will be graded. And for someone with a little bit of social anxiety at first. I
Mhm.
remember my first semester, I had this, like the squeezy toy. They
Yes,
literally gave
stress
us
balls.
squeezy toys
Wow,
in the,
okay.
in the first week, and I was like sitting here with the squeezy toy with like my lavender oil, just like trying to get adjusted to
Aw.
it. But after the first semester, it got like really easy and really like natural. So I think the workload, it's a lot. It takes time to adjust, but I've really enjoyed my education. I think that was like perfect for me, the kind of person I am.
Mm.
And we've also had it remote, right? So at Minerva, we study on our computers. There's like a special platform that Minerva has created. It's called The Forum. So you take
Mhm.
all of your classes like online, live. And when the pandemic hit, and we were luckily unaffected by it because we already adjusted
Yeah,
to
of
like
course.
online education. So that was like a very unexpected perk.
Well, one of the things that really was very interesting when I read your bio was the course that you're studying or the way you've formed it. So, designing societies and brand management. Well, I've heard brand management for a little bit,
Yeah,
but designing societies, that's really, really interesting. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
for sure. That's actually what I thought as well when I was applying to Minerva. I thought that would be really cool to do this course. It's a social sciences major, and
Mhm.
designing societies is about looking at how a society operates on the individual level, on the economic level, and on the political level. So we had psychology classes, cognitive behavioral science classes. We
Mhm.
had developmental economics course. Well, not we, I.
Yeah.
Developmental economics, global economics. I had a class that was really, really interesting that was part of this major. The class was designing constitutions. So we
Oh,
actually spent
wow.
like a whole semester deconstructing different constitutions in democratic, non-democratic states and like drafting our own. So that was like something very unique and special. I just really wanted to take the whole major, like designing societies, because I love talking to people. I love learning about how people live and this whole
Mhm.
subject of why is why are systems so different around the world, right? As a person who grew up in Russia and then travels to the US, I was so culture shocked. Like all of these things,
Of
like why
course.
do politics are this way? What do people think? And so my curiosity for that, like that drove me to take this major. It wasn't
Mhm.
necessarily like, how can I make the most money when I graduate from college? It was just like
Yeah.
following my passions, my personal interests. And brand management, it sort of just like came in as I started posting on social media
Mhm.
publicly and sort of like developing my YouTube channel and understanding that I can build a brand online. That's when I was like drawn to business, and that's where that came from. So overall, I think I've been really fortunate to have taken classes that respond to my interests very well.
Mhm. I have to say I'm a bit jealous about the things that you've just talked about because it all sounds so fascinating. I had a similar experience. I grew
Mhm.
up as an expatriate, a Pakistani in Saudi Arabia, and then I moved to
Mm,
the UK to study. And even though
very
I don't
international.
really have a, I don't know what my identity is because I have cultural roots everywhere. I love parts of my kind of Arabic tradition that I've taken along
Mm,
with me, like hospitality and family and
mm.
love and respect. And then there's some aspects of the Pakistani food that I'll never give up. And then
Oh,
also I love being here in a liberal state and being able to
for
do what I want
sure.
to do. And it's a bit of a mix and mash. But
It's
to
beautiful.
kind of it is beautiful, and I want you to kind of learn a little bit more because you have been able to see multiple societies in this very short span of time. What so there I think there are two parts to the question. How have you been able to do this so? Because it's
Mhm.
as you said, culture shock and different societies
Yeah.
have different kind of rules and regulations. Have you been able to navigate that? But also, what's been the most amazing thing or exciting thing that you've learned through those kind of
Oh gosh.
experiences?
Well, there are great question, by the way. There are
Hmm.
multiple ways I feel like to prepare yourself for like living in a different society, right? First of all, you just
Hmm.
do research beforehand. That's really, really important. And Minerva actually provided us with short webinars or like in-person classes about each city before we moved in, pretty much.
Okay.
So that was really useful, right? To have a presentation about this is what you should like look after here, or don't say this. This is really disrespectful. That's like super important. And the second way to, for me at least, to like immerse myself successfully somewhere new is to be very open minded and humble. We all have a lot of assumptions about the world, we all have a lot of things we think are true. In reality, your truth, you believe in it 100%, someone else believes in something completely opposite. And that's okay. Like, it's
Hmm.
possible for us as human beings to comprehend the world this way. And so every single time I would move, right? And I lived in India, I lived in South Korea, I lived in Argentina and Germany and the UK and the US. And so each place is so unique. My
Hmm.
biggest, not my biggest lesson, but like one of the most important ways that I've adopted while living abroad is I'm literally no one. Let me just like listen and ask a lot of questions so I can
Hmm.
adapt. I'm a big adapter. Like, I love to bring in something of my own, of course, like my attitude, and also share what I know about the world with people when they ask me. But for the most part, I'm like, everything I know, let me just erase it for a second
Yeah.
so I can like absorb everything else like a sponge, and then I can
Yeah.
filter it out along the way. So that's been really, really helpful for me, especially because I was an exchange student in the US when I was 15.
Oh, wow. So that's
And
young.
yeah, I grew up in Russia, very normal upbringing. And then there was this exchange program that was kind of like a grant from the US government. And
Mhm.
if you like pass all the tests, then they pay for everything. And you just like live in the US for a year. And that was like the most culture shock I had ever experienced. And I feel like from that, that was like a good lesson for me to bring into Minerva as
Yeah.
well. I kind of knew how
Yeah.
to do it already. And I think the biggest thing I've learned through living in so many places that people are all the same. Like, we think we're so different, we think we're so divided, we think that we can't agree on things, but deep down when you just chat with a woman or with anyone, like in India, and then you talk to another lady in Buenos Aires, people want the same things, okay?
Mhm.
And it just like seeing the humanity in people around the world, and it just gave me this perspective of I'm an observer. Whenever something happens, right? Like whenever there's a big news or debates or whatever's happening, deep down I know that people are all the same. We want the same things. We want to be happy. We want our families to be happy and healthy. And it's just those goals, we pursue them in the best way that we know,
Mhm.
right? Unless you're a psychopath, that's like a different, very small
Sure.
percentage
Sure.
of the population. I also
Yeah.
just want to acknowledge that. So that's just been really interesting. And I think my favorite parts from like all the travel and stuff, it wasn't necessarily like the beautiful nature or the beautiful cities or the food, which food is huge. Food is like
Okay.
really big, really important. It was just like sitting down with a family that welcomed me in their home. Like when I was in India, for instance, I was just sitting in a Starbucks on a Sunday and I was reading, and this girl came up to me. She was like, "Oh, you're reading alone?" I was like, "Yeah." And she felt so bad for me because apparently, like, for her, being alone is like you have to be with friends. And she was like, "Do you want me
Yes,
to
yeah.
sit with you?" And I was just
Aw,
like,
it's cute.
"Sure." And so we ended up talking a lot, had a lot of interest. She invited me to her home like the next week. And then next Sunday, I'm in like a little auto going like an hour away to her
Wow.
family home.
Yeah.
And like they welcomed me, we ate together, and that's when I was like, this feels like home. And the same way when I was in Korea, I made a friend there and we visited his aunt in Busan, which is like another, I lived in Seoul and this was in Busan. She never met me or my friends in her life. And I was vegan at the time. And
Okay.
she prepared the whole meal like plant-based. Everything. It's like Korean food, right? Spent the
Mhm.
whole day cooking for us. We spent the whole day together, didn't understand each other.
Wow,
Like
so no
the language.
language.
Yeah,
Okay.
and he would like translate and help us, but overall you just kind of like know the body language, all of that
Mm,
stuff.
mm.
And it's just so wonderful and humbling, and I know for a fact that those people are everywhere, and,
Yeah.
like, we're in the like, in our hearts, I feel like we're all the same. I'm sorry, I went on a very long rant about it with, like,
Not at all.
examples and stuff, but
I loved it, and it was so beautiful for you
yeah.
to share some of those stories. I think it's so crucial for young people moving forward to have that attitude, this
Mm,
humbleness, this approach to the world where
yeah,
accepting the different perspectives and learning from each other.
yeah,
Because at the end of the day, we've been kind of hearing this term, the global village, for many years, right? Or from the
yeah,
90s, and now more than ever, we are a global village. I mean, the pandemic
yeah,
just showed us how close we are. That the fact that in a couple of weeks and months, a virus can spread so quickly. So we are
mhm,
interacting, engaging, we're in with each other all the time. Um,
mm. I
but
also just oh, yeah, keep going.
yeah, oftentimes we're divided in our own belief systems and perceptions, and we that
Mm,
causes us to lose so much of the beauty of humanity, the sense of community
mm.
that comes about. And I think that you captured it so beautifully. Sorry, I did interrupt you, so go ahead, please.
Oh, no, 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 I just wanted to add that also important thing is boundaries, like, while I'm talking about being a sponge, absorbing everything, and just
Hmm.
like being humble. It's also extremely important to keep boundaries, like personal boundaries, to have a balance between the two.
Hmm.
And for me personally, right, there's still things that I don't want to do. There's still things that I will disagree with. There's still like personal boundaries that I don't let people cross with me. And
Sure.
I think that's also extremely important as a person who's abroad. It's really easy to write off bad behavior as cultural difference. Oh, this person is yelling at me because in their
Very
culture that's
interesting.
okay. Maybe, but maybe it's just you 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 still got to talk about it, right? Or
Hmm.
maybe this guy is mistreating me because in this culture it's like different. No, boundaries are still important. So I just wanted to add that because
Yeah.
it's like really crucial.
So that
Um
sensitivity is so important, and it's
yeah.
although like experiences make that happen, right? You get
Mm,
that moral internal moral compass which guides you when you
yeah.
experience more and more things.
Hopefully, yeah.
So I want to touch upon another aspect of your life, which is what you spend on the internet in terms of your social
Yeah.
media presence. Um, you've set up your Instagram account, you have YouTube, you share a lot of thoughts and feelings online. How did that first come about? How did you start to develop this community, and what's
Mm.
most important about it for you?
Great questions once again. Well, for me, it started. I've loved Instagram for a while before posting anything publicly just as a way to share my vision with the world, right? I
Okay.
deeply believe that even though Instagram or like social media is oftentimes separated into consumers and creators, right? There are bloggers or like people who are making content, and there are people who mostly consume it. I believe that everyone should be creating something. That would be wonderful, because you're just sharing your vision with the world. It doesn't matter if 5 people, 50, or like 5 million are seeing it. So I've always been doing it. And then when I started Minerva, I was in Korea, so it was like my second year. I thought it would be so nice to document things so that when I'm old, I can look back and be like, these are my college years and these were my friends, and that was so nice.
Yeah.
So that was like a big step for me to make a YouTube video and be vulnerable and share like, hi, I'm Dinara, this is what I'm doing. And it really took off like 6-8 months after I started uploading, because Minerva became like a bigger thing, and I think a lot of people are
Definitely.
curious about it. And then over time, the most important thing for me about social media is the community that I have, at least at the moment, because I've been able to meet so many fantastic people, one person from your team, like including them, through
Yes.
just putting myself out there, right? That's why I think we all should be creating something and putting ourselves out there, because you never know what magical friends, right? Or what incredible connections you're going to get out of it. So I really feel like at this point, and I only have like what 600, no, sorry, not 600, 6,000 followers on Instagram, right? But they're so international to the point that if I'm in Buenos Aires, I met so many people. Just like for me, hanging out with like 5 people, having like 5 coffee dates with my followers, like random people that I've never known before, and that we end up clicking, and like having a really great time, from Buenos Aires to Berlin to like to San Francisco. It's like everywhere there's someone who could become my friend that I know just through social media. For me, that's so important, because social media by itself, it's like a world that doesn't exist. It's really, let me explain my idea better.
Go ahead, because it's an abstract
Yeah, yeah,
concept. I'm really excited by it. So let's go
yeah.
ahead.
I deleted Instagram yesterday because I felt overwhelmed. Like I was so many messages, and the endless scroll when you just like get stuck on the app for 2 hours, which is like a huge problem, right? The mental health, the way it affects mental health. And once in a while I do breaks. So I deleted Instagram last night, and today I woke up feeling so rejuvenated, feeling so much better, and I was like, crazy. And I was on the bus today riding, and instead of being on my phone and scrolling, I was just looking outside and like enjoying the view. And I thought, wow, for me right now, like social media is kind of my world. I exist so much there, but when I delete it off my phone, it just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's really difficult to grapple with, but I want there to be a social media app that after you use it, you want to live more. You want to like, you're there for 20
Pursuit.
minutes and you're like, oh my gosh, the world is so amazing. Let me put down my phone, go out there and explore. But what kind of social media apps do we have right now? You're on it for 20 minutes, and then you get stuck for an hour, and then another hour, and then another hour, and then suddenly it's 2 a.m. and
Yeah.
you put
Yeah.
your phone down, you feel bad about yourself, you go to sleep like hating yourself for doing this, and you wake up the next morning like tired, and the cycle goes on. And I'm saying it confidently because so many people have told me this. Like I've asked people online, I've asked people in person, everyone I know has experienced this. And so as a content creator online, to me it's extremely important to put out like things that will hopefully make people feel better and will make them
Of
want
course.
to live more instead of numb their feelings on social media. That's like super important for
Yeah.
me.
I mean, there's so many things to unpack there, and I feel like we can easily go over our 25-minute mark. I think we've, I hope you think you've made a friend today as well on our podcast.
Oh,
The first thing I wanted to understand, obviously, social media is designed as a recommender system to continuously prompt you and keep you in their system. That's how
yeah.
they, business model wise, that's how it works. So sharing your kind of your feelings about just deleting, and to be honest, I do the very same thing. I also have moments of the day where I spend a couple hours outside running and
Mm,
swimming and cycling, and because that's my only way of like breaking
mm,
free of the confines of the internet. um
that's amazing.
and it's also something that grounds me. So I really really appreciate, but at the same time, there's this powerful connection, the ability to meet
Mm,
so many incredible people that the network provides.
yeah.
I wonder, when you create content, do you think the content is the most important thing, or is your community? And to kind of like, maybe I'm answering the question a little bit, but do you think your content serves as attractors for people that believe or share visions, experiences, and inspiration that you do?
Absolutely. I think it's a loop. The kind of content I put out defines what audience I have, because only
Hmm.
people who resonate with me will like follow, right, and consume this content. Except for like a couple people that just don't follow me but still share their opinions
You
very
get those?
negatively.
Hmm.
That exists as well, but that's what okay, social media is the same as the world. Whatever you focus on, that's your world,
Hmm.
right? So on social media as well, like if you're on Instagram and you're liking things that are really upsetting, negative, that are like complaining about life or like some stuff like that, if you keep liking it, you will see more of it, right? Confirmation bias.
Of
You know, the
course.
confirmation. Yeah, you just like keep confirming that whatever beliefs you have. But if you're on social media and for example, I post on my stories how I'm meditating, here's a link to a meditation, right? If I'm sharing like, oh, today I wrote down 50 things I'm grateful for and make me feel so amazing. You guys should try it out. And then people send me their list that they're doing it as well.
Hmm.
That's fantastic, right? Or if I'm sharing like something, guys, I'm doing like a 1 week detox from Instagram. Do you want to join me? That's also kind of like a way to kind of balance it
Hmm.
and make people feel a little bit better. And also answering your question about like content versus community, I've been so fortunate that I believe in the law of attraction, right? Or I believe in manifesting. I believe in self-development. I believe
Hmm.
in a lot of things. And my audience does as well. Or if
Hmm.
they don't, they're open-minded to it and we have conversations. And then we can meet in person. That's super important for me, like the conversion from online connections into like real in-person interactions.
Yeah,
That's super
yeah.
meaningful for me. It's just really vulnerable, extremely vulnerable to the point that sometimes I'm like, I'm not going to talk about this, I'm not going to post this. Or you know, when I share myself, right? And then I'm like, oh my god, no. I'm like, it gives me anxiety sometimes to open my messages because I'm like, out of these 20 messages, there must be one that's negative, and that's gonna like m- just throw me off probably.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have that fear, and I think that's why a lot of people choose not to be vulnerable online or not to put themselves out there
Mm.
because it is scary, but it is worth it, I guess. I think it is worth it at
Okay.
the end of the day.
Well, that was literally my question, was how do you cope with being vulnerable? And
Mm,
you mentioned about all these different aspects of your belief system, and you talk a lot
yeah.
about spirituality on your account, which is controversial. There's and you've just also talked earlier in this conversation about the celebration of the differences of opinion, the different
Yeah.
perspective that each human brings in. How do you deal with the hateful comments though? Because out of the 95%
Mm,
of beauty that exists in our society, in our community, that 5% is still gonna leave you not feeling great.
ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, great question. I thought about it so much. Um, First of all, I don't think that spirituality is controversial. I think it's just a belief system, an opinion. Like if somebody's posting that they okay. Anyways, I don't
That's all
want to
right.
give like bad examples. But for example, if somebody believes in astrology and they post about it, are you gonna go on their page and say like this is so stupid? Blah, blah, blah? That's just like ridiculous, right? So I don't think
Mm,
spirituality is controversial. It's just a belief system, and it could trigger people,
mhm,
which is fine. The way I deal with hateful comments, number one, I send love, not like in a pretentious, like condescending way, like, oh, I'm sending love to you, but more of like, wow, something must have really hurt you, or something like it must be difficult to be living life in this moment for you.
mhm,
And like, I don't literally message them. I rarely do because sometimes it can sound condescending, but just like in my head, I read something and I'm like, I hope they feel better. Like, I hope some, like, you know, like mentally
mm,
sending
mm.
some,
Energy.
yeah. That's like the most important thing about social media to me, community, content, but all of it is just energy, right?
Mhm,
Anyways, and then I do that. Sometimes I block people. That's super powerful. If someone's talking to me in person and they're like arguing with me without my consent, or I'm not going to talk to them, I'm just going to walk away. We can do the same thing online. It's so easy. You just block people. Access to me is a privilege in real life or online. And I
I love
believe,
that.
yes, like for you as well, right?
Mhm,
This is a privilege to be talking to you right now. We're literally like sharing opinions, giving each other time. So
mhm.
why should people feel like people can feel like they're allowed, right? They have
Yeah, yeah.
permission to be this way, but I don't consent to it. And if I don't consent, I'm just going to block it. And the last thing that has helped me, also just want to mention some things are hateful comments, and some messages just disagree with me, but in a very respectful, loving way, right? I accept those and I talk with those people. The last perspective, super helpful. Somebody might say something bad about you online, send you
Mhm.
hate, whatever. And the end of the day, you're living your amazing life. You read it, you laugh at it, you put your phone away, and then you go back to your wonderful friends. You eat
Mhm.
delicious food. You're in
Yeah.
your house that you've like, did it all yourself. You're living the life you created that you love, that gives you so much joy. Why does it matter what people think about you? It's like,
Mm, mm.
would you rather have the comfort of agree like how do I say it? Would you rather have the comfort of everybody liking you because you don't stand for anything? You don't. I don't. Wait. Let me say it in the best way. Would you rather have the comfort of people liking you, or not sending hate your way, right? Or would you rather live your best life, like your dream life?
Mhm.
I will take this, and if it comes with a little bit of hate,
That's
let
fine.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's not
I'm
just online, like, sorry, just really quickly, it's not just online. It's
Mhm.
for every single person. Like, if you go to school and some of your classmates are not nice, you're still gonna stand up for yourself, right? You're still gonna do those
Absolutely.
things that you want to go after. And with jobs, like with every single aspect of life, it's always about like choosing you, respecting yourself, your boundaries, and yeah, just not paying attention to that as much.
I
Sorry, keep
love
going.
that, and I'm so curious to continue our conversation. Maybe we'll have to bring you on again at some point, but we have reached our time limit, and it's been
Sure.
amazing to have you. Thank you so much, Nora. I hope you have a lovely rest of the day, and we look forward to hearing and
Thank
seeing you again
you.
soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.